I've been to Israel, I've been to Venezuela, South America, and now I'm fixing to go to Greece.
Greetings, I'm James Gross, and this is my lovely wife, Karen Bozeman Gross. In June of 2007, we took a delegation to Venezuela, South America. Why did we do that? Because I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Venezuela, South America from 1967 to 1969. And that delegation was made up of Dr. Webb Evans.
Dr. Webb Evans, the founder of the United American Progress Association, decided to join this delegation after a presentation at a UAPA meeting. He came to one of our organizing meetings. He heard our presentation in depth. He met some of the people responsible for our safe passage, and he decided to sign up. And so Dr. Webb Evans was a part of our delegation.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know for years Dr. Webb Evans has preached by black to you, me, and everybody he's come in contact with that's of black skin. Dr. Webb Evans got his concept from Moses Messiah Garvey. He's a Garveyite. And what was Garvey about? God was about self-determination. That's what Dr. Webb Evans has been instilling in us for all of these years, the concept of self-determination. So when Webb went to Venezuela with this delegation, he discovered the Bolivarian method instituted by Chavez. This Bolivarian method is a system where the economic engine is from the bottom up. You see, before we go on trips, and before we took this trip, we studied this Bolivarian method. It was set out for people of African descent for the most part. And Dr. Evans, in studying this method, got excited about it. And when he went to Venezuela, he saw it applied. I want you to hear from Dr. Evans himself as he expresses his passion about cooperative economics.
The biggest mistake black people are making, they're not learning to march with their dollars to the right place. I'm proud of what they're doing here. We should be doing this every day. Nobody but black people live in one neighborhood and spend most of the money where the people live somewhere else. How many black-owned businesses will you find in Chinatown? How many will you find in Greektown? How many find in Koreatown? You won't find any. But in our town, you find everybody running more business than us. Black people got to have more than a church. Tomorrow I'll be speaking to 20, 25 pastors, telling them we can't tell people only about heaven. We got to get them straight here on earth. You can tell them all you want how good it is in heaven, but we got to do more to get them out of something the hell in on earth. Thank you.
You just experienced the passion and excitement that Dr. Webb Evans had as he experienced the practice of Kujichagulia, self-determination, given to us in Kwanzaa by Dr. Malana Karenga. This principle of Kujichagulia encourages us to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves.
In his trip to Venezuela, Elder Webb discovered many examples of Kujichagulia. In the Barlovento region, along the Caribbean coast of Venezuela, he saw the huge government-run cocoa processing plant, controlled and managed by Venezuelans of a darker hue. He experienced cocoa processing in a home setting and tasted homemade chocolate treats. He listened intently to the lectures about Afro-Venezuelan resistance movements that assisted in the freedom from Spanish rule, as well as the resistance against slavery. Resistors were called cimarrones, a name which we saw in the finished cocoa products and other manufactured products. Professor Jesus Chucho Garcia, author, lecturer, and professor of history, provided insight into the past and present efforts of the Afro-Venezuelans to seek self-determination, or Kujichagulia. Accompanying us was the Consul General of Chicago, Martin Sanchez, whose family was from this part of Venezuela. Many times he was even overcome with emotion as he traveled with the delegation throughout this area. Often he would have long discussions with Webb about the changes he had seen since the Chavez regime took office and the positive impact upon the local residents. We visited the little village of Curiepe, sometimes known as the seat of the practice of the African drum and dance. It's also known as the land of the tambores. A huge statue of the drum indigenous to this area marks the opening to the village. Curiepe is also the site of a well-attended festival in mid-June called the Festival of San Juan de Bautista, or in English, St. John the Baptist. The 3-day festival was a holiday for the Venezuelan slaves who celebrated San Juan de Bautista on 2 days with visible merrymaking, and on the 3rd day they secretly celebrated San Juan de Congo, the saint that protected their resistance efforts against slavery. In addition to the cultural focus, there were linkages with African American heroes such as Dr. Martin Luther King, as well as thought-out technical advances for this region.
When we went to Puerto Cabello, the town in which I performed my Peace Corps duties from 1967 to 1969, the Venezuelan people continued to be in awe of Brother Webb and his stamina. During our visit to 14 Solano, a major protective fort against pirates to the town of Puerto Cabello, Webb put all of us to shame by sprinting ahead and easily climbing up to the top of the fort, where we could see the whole town in the ocean, the Caribbean Sea, I should say. Webb was also overcome with emotion as I not only found the school where I taught physical education, which was called Prospero Reverend, but that the school that I helped build called Romulo Gallegos. This is the school where I solicited funds from benefactors in the United States. And major contractors sent us supplies and resources to help us build this school. I was so pleased that Elder Webb and Senor Mijares, my African father, got to meet each other, because Mijares, even though in a wheelchair, was also about 92 years of age. They received Webb with open arms. One thing that is worth noting in Puerto Cabello region were the statues of Afro-Venezolanos in either their use of the African drum or a replica of their participation in the various resistance movements, either against the Spanish and later against the Venezuelan slave masters.
Webb learned about the artist town of Tintorero. We had the occasion to meet the owner of the most famous weaving factory, specializing in blankets, hammocks, and bags made of brightly colored yarn. The owner showed the delegation pictures of his family and books that were written about his family's weaving legacy. He, like many people we met, were excited to meet African Americans and talk about his African ancestry linkage. As usual, Webb was the star of the delegation as most Venezuelans were interested in how a person of his age found their country. In El Tocuyo, further up the road toward Barquisimeto, Elder Webb enjoyed an unexpected treat. He witnessed a cultural performance by many of the townspeople who displayed the local dancing and singing, using guitars, small drums, and a type of spear formerly used in fighting. Not only did Webb pose with the village elders, but he was greeted and honored by the mayor of El Tocuyo, a former military person. He took the delegation to the town museum, which told the history of that area. Again, they acknowledged their African ancestry, as such was the history of that area. And it was apparent in some of the facial features of the people of this region. The mayor enjoyed us so much that he closed down a restaurant and treated the delegation to as much food and drink as we could take. He invited other professional people to meet Elder Webb and the rest of the delegation.
Our final stop was in Barquisimeto, the capital of Lara State. It was here that our delegation member, Patty Nealon, had received the free eye surgery to correct her eye disease, and it was under the program entitled Mission Milagro. The Venezuelan government wanted this to be a permanent program between the U.S. and Venezuela. Brother Webb was able to visit the hospital and witnessed Patty receive a follow-up examination that declared her eye operation was a success.
We began our journey back to Caracas, which was the capital of Venezuela. The next picture you see here was in the actual square where they had just had the demonstrations that occurred a few days before. I believe the demonstrations had to do with education or university education. Here the delegation is posing with their equivalent of congressmen from two different regions in Venezuela who are progressive. You see the consul general along with the delegation posing with the two. And then the historic picture is Webb Evans posing with the two congressmen.
They were roommates.
Now here inside the chambers of Congress, and then the Consul General of Chicago poses with a local congressman. Once we went into council chambers, we witnessed a press conference.
That's right. Upon returning to Chicago, Webb was so excited about sharing these experiences with his UAPA membership in the rest of Chicago that he started having sessions at the meetings expressing what we had learned and experienced in Venezuela. He held several report back sessions and donated to young people going to Venezuela in 2009 and 2011 with Karen Bosman-Gross, my wife. He realized that much of what was on the news was slanted to persuade the United States public that things were not good in Venezuela. He found out that for the first time, Venezuelans who had been denied economic parity were finding more and more opportunity under the leadership of President Hugo Chavez. Dr. Webb Evans realized that the news was slanted against Hugo Chavez, the president of Venezuela. Dr. Webb Evans learned that Hugo Chavez program was benefiting the majority of African Venezolanos who had been closed out of the system for so many years.
We were moved to create a DVD that shows more footage of Dr. Webb Evans, his philosophy, his trip to Venezuela, and his last public interview, which includes his sister Bernice and his close friend John Jackson.
light of God surrounds us.
The light of God surrounds us.
The love of God enfolds us.
The love of God enfolds us.
The power of God protects us.
The power of God protects us.
The very presence of God watches over us.
The very presence of God watches over us.
Wherever we are.
Wherever we are.
Wherever we are.
Wherever we are.
God is.
God is.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
Hello, I am Brother Minister Raheem Kasset-Aten. I am the founder of the Temple of Mercy Association in Chicago, Illinois, but I'm also the president of the United American Progress Association, whose founder is our own Dr. Webb Evans, a.k.a. Mr. Buy Black.
My name is Vivian Hampton, and I met Mr. Evans in the 80s, and I was invited to an economic revival, which I'd never heard of, and since that time, Mr. Evans has been an inspiration in my life.
I'm Bernice Lynch, sister of Dr. Webb Evans. I've been with him ever since he first started the organization. And he's all about letting us know as black, God will do the same thing for us that he's done for every other race. If we will just only come together, love one another, and support one another.
God bless you. I am Pastor St. John Chisholm, honored to be the chairman of the United American Progress Association. And I do want to say that through the grace of God, the name has been officially changed to the United Black American Progress Association. It was announced today. And we're glad to incorporate the essence of blackness into our meeting, into our organization, because Dr. Evans believes in buying black.
I'm Bishop Edgar Jackson, a longtime associate follower of the man who carried this organization on for more than a half century. And he carried it on in the spirit that African people could do for themselves.
My name is Evelyn Johnson, and I am a board member of UPA, United Black American Progress Association. I've been in the organization going on 5 years. Dr. Evans encouraged me to become a board member because he said I was a thinking person and a problem solver.
Peace and blessings. My name is Cassiopeia, and I am a honored and esteemed member of the United American Progress Association, soon to become the United Black American Progress Association. And Dr. Webb Evans, he meant so much to me.
Please order this historic keepsake today. And in the words of Dr. Webb Evans, buy black.